morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. It's nice to see you all here today. Good morning. How are you feeling today? Glad to hear that. Good. You're up bright and early this morning. We're glad to get you started for your day with all the best in news, talk, and opinions. As usual, I have slaved away for you to talk to some of the best guests in news and politics today. Well, it's not really slavery, but it's capitalism. Well, capitalism is slavery, isn't it? Not sure about that, Chief. At the top of the show today, Disney's new super woke, mega racist cartoon based on the 1619 Project was released, and boy, it's a doozy. And it makes all kinds of false claims and promotes anti-white hatred. We're going to talk about this morning at the top of the show in just a few. And I'll play the clip for you. At 7:20 this morning, a lot of people are asking the question, why a balloon, cousin? Why not an axe? Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more. Sorry, a little Robin Hood Prince of Thieves reference there. Rest in peace, Alan Rickman. Why did the Chinese use a balloon instead of a spy satellite? A lot of people are asking that question there. China says that, it was just used for peaceful purposes. It's just, they shot down a civilian balloon, and this is just a sign of American militarism. That's very funny, sir. Very funny, Winnie the Pooh. We'll talk about that this morning at 6:20. It's going to be a great show today. You don't want to miss it. Looks like my brother, Justin Peterson, was over in the stream. What's up, brother? Justin was really enjoying the clips that I cut from yesterday's show last night, where I talked about the Civil War in the question of whether or not transgender men should be allowed in women's sports, and how I was just like, ladies, you're the ones who wanted to let him in. Say, it wasn't men voting for this, so fight it out amongst yourselves, ladies. Have a little civil war, and we'll catch you men on the flippity. We'll catch you ladies on the flippity flip. Good luck with that. Nice to see you here, Justin. Good to have you. If you missed those clips and you have no idea what I'm talking about because you're like, I didn't see the show yesterday, well, guess what? You can watch those clips right on the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't liked the stream on YouTube yet, are you really a Wake Up America show fan? Right? Do you really love me? I think it's time for you to hit that like button. Come on. Did you do it? Oh, you did. Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. At 7:35 this morning, Hannah Cox of Base Politics is going to join me in continuing my tradition of only having attractive people on the stream. She's going to talk to us about California eyeing reparations. It's Black History Month, which means that the wokies are more woke than ever. So we'll talk about that at 7:30 today. Camelia Peterson is going to join us today to talk about a man and a quote unquote journalist. He's really just a communist agitator here in the state of Missouri who is threatening school choice advocates with violent death. This is the kind of thing that would have you unpersoned if you were a conservative or a libertarian and you said something like this online. It would be, you'd be done. But he's allowed to continue in his practice because he's a Marxist. We'll talk to Camelia about that, as well as the Missouri Senate apparently is introducing our own version of the Don't Say Gay bill here in Missouri. That's it. It's funny because obviously Don't Say Gay is a misnomer for the Florida bill because it didn't say Don't Say Gay at all. People just called it that. But you know what? As much as I support gay rights, I'm for it. Don't say gay. If you're a teacher in school and you're talking to 5-year-olds, don't say gay. How about that? Don't play clips of Joe Biden saying things like this either.
Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady in a race car.
Well, at least she was 19, right, Joe?
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Yes, what a very stupid son of a bitch. We'll talk to Camelia Peterson about that and more at 8:35 this morning. Ian Howarth is going to join us. How on earth is Ian Howarth so based? He's a Turning Point USA ambassador. He's going to join us this morning at 8:35. He's not taking the bait on the Satanic Sam Smith Grammys performance. And when I saw yesterday, he did an Instagram video talking about how conservatives need to stop being trolled by Hollywood and these wokies dressing up like Satan or dancing around acting like Satan and doing their music videos and things like that. I thought to myself, wow, This is a conservative who actually gets it. And then I realized this is funny. I actually realized that he was Jewish after I already booked him, and I said, "Oh, okay. Well, now it makes sense why he's not getting trolled by the Satanic Sam Smith stuff." Because every time we see some performer like Madonna or Sam Smith or who was it? Met a girl who could cuddle with me all. No, met a boy. He's gay. I forgot. Met a boy who could cuddle with me all night. I went Montero, what's his name? Guy, he did. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the who is it? To the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. Oh, Lil Nas X, Lil Nas X. Oh, that's right, that's right. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. All right. Let's start with Disney's new anti. Thank you, Justin. Yes, Lil Nas X. I appreciate that. Just like a second too late, but I'm sure that there's probably a delay in the stream, so you were just getting it as soon as I was saying it wrong. So as I was trying to figure it out, so but you probably got it before I did. So, all right, Disney's new anti-white woke show. Let's take a look at this. Let's head to our Twitter show so we can watch this clip and we can party. Oh, hey, what the hell? That is not my Twitter weirdness scene. There it is. Okay, here we go. Disney's new anti-white woke propaganda. This is a scene from a Disney kids cartoon called The Proud Family, as End Wokeness Twitter wrote, blatant anti-white propaganda. Take a listen.
This country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. Tilled this land from sea to sea to sea. First there was rice, tobacco, sugar cane. Then Whitney did his thing and cotton became king. And we were its soldiers, 4 million strong. Fighting for America's freedoms, even though we remained America's slaves. Built this country. The descendants of slaves continue to build this. Slaves built this country. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And continue to earn reparations every moment we spend submerged in the systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy that America was founded with and still has not atoned for. Slaves built this country. Not only field hands, but carpenters, masons, blacksmiths, musicians, inventors built cities from Jamestown to New Orleans to Banneker, Washington. 40 acres and a mule. We'll take the 40 acres, keep the mule. We made your families rich. From the southern plantation heirs to the northern bankers to the New England ship owners, the founding fathers, former presidents, current senators,
the Illuminati, the New World Order.
Slaves built this country. We had Tubman, Turner,
Frederick D.
Didn't they say Lincoln freed the slaves?
But slaves were men.
And women. And only we can free ourselves. Emancipation is not freedom. Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, public schools, feeding private prisons, where we become slaves again. As we celebrate Juneteenth for the umpteenth time, our account is still outstanding. Cause this country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. And we demand our 40 acres and a mule. Bump that! You can keep the mule.
Keep the 40.
We're taking our freedom.
Yeah. Oh, keep the. Okay, so you don't want the 40 acres and the mule. First, you didn't want the mule, and now you don't want the 40. You just want your freedom. Well, you got your freedom. America is the least racist nation in the country, and there was a lot of BS in there to debunk. So we're just going to go through it. This is a big. This is what the left has adopted now. This whole 1619 project, critical race theory. This is what they want to teach in our kids' schools. This is what they want to indoctrinate our kids with. And that's why, I know some people have trepidation about whether or not people like Ron DeSantis and others should be trying to impact the curriculum of public schools. But since we are paying for those taxpayer funded schools, I think that we should be affecting that curriculum so that we shouldn't have things like that taught in schools. Slavery has been a fact of human existence throughout recorded history, writes Rich Lowry over at the National Review. Why did it suddenly create capitalism a couple of centuries ago in a few select places? Really good piece here that he wrote, debunking many of the false claims that were made in that Proud Family cartoon series. Remember, this is what they want to teach to your kids, right? Slaves built this country, and slavery is what created capitalism. Now, again, this is an installment of what's called the Proud Family series. This is a Disney Plus cartoon version of the 1619 project. And this one is devoted, this this episode, excuse me, is devoted to the whole concept of critical race theory for kids. If there were any doubt about the radical agenda of the 1619 Project, that video right there is something that you need to show to anybody who's a doubter when it comes to why it's so important to fight against critical race theory being taught in our schools. Hannah Jones, who's put this together, says that our economic system was founded on buying and selling black people. Economic system founded on buying and selling black people. And she says that American capitalism is brutish and exploitative to this day. She says that there is a direct line from antebellum cotton plantations to 21st century Amazon warehouses. I'm not sure about that, Chief, or as Joe Biden might put it.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah, she says, essentially there's very little difference between the Joshua John Ward, if you don't know who that is. He was the king of the rice planters back in the antebellum South. He owned more than 1,000 slaves, and Jeff Bezos, right? They're pretty much the same thing, right? The point is that the only way to fully reject racism and the legacy of slavery is to reject American capitalism. Yeah, that's the point, right?
No, God! No, God,
Yeah.
please, no!
Slavery has been a fact of human existence throughout
No!
history, writes Rich Lowry here. Why did it suddenly create capitalism a couple of centuries ago in a few select places? The Netherlands, Britain, and the American colonies. Why didn't the Romans create it? The Vikings or the Spanish, he asks. It is true, of course, that cotton and slavery production played a large role in the American economy, but they weren't determinative. Philip Magnus of the American Institute for Economic Research points out slave-produced cotton and its derivatives accounted for 5 or 6% of GDP before the Civil War. 5 or 6%. So that's significant, but it's not determinative. All right. Are we supposed to believe that absent this sector of the economy, that the growing financial and industrial sectors of the United States would have just evaporated? Right? It would have gone away if it wasn't for that 5 or 6%. So then they make this claim about Abraham Lincoln and freeing the slaves. Let's go through this piece by piece, debunking it here. And what I think is fascinating too is as more and more I listen to libertarian hate of Abraham Lincoln over the years, and I've read all of the revisionist history. I've read the Thomas DiLorenzo. I've read all the Mises critiques of Abraham Lincoln, and many of the critiques of the libertarian critiques of Abraham Lincoln are founded in reality. Many of them are not. And a lot of the libertarian critiques of Abraham Lincoln are actually mirrored by many of these Marxists and their critiques of Abraham Lincoln as an imperialist, etc., or his intentions regarding slaves and freeing the slaves when it comes to the Civil War. Some of these things are true, and some of them are not. But what I think is fascinating are some of these quotes that Rich Lowry pulls from Abraham Lincoln, the time when he talked about the economy of the South. Listen to this. In the North, Abraham Lincoln observed that free workers made the most of themselves, while the mandarins of the slave South undertook to, quote, shift their share of the burden of labor onto the shoulders of others, and work itself was considered vulgar and ungentlemanly. Now, again, this is how Abraham Lincoln is describing his political opponents and eventually his wartime enemies. He says that the South saw work as vulgar and ungentlemanly. Let's zero in on this in just a second. If there was a modern antecedent, no, is antecedent the right word that I'm looking for? And I don't think it is actually antecedent. Modern antecedent. That doesn't make sense. Sorry. I was proceeding in time and order, right? If there was a modern example of this, sorry, I wanted to use a big word, but I was wrong. Double checked myself before I double wrecked myself. The work itself was considered vulgar and ungentlemanly. So Abraham Lincoln is describing Southern aristocrats, saying that to them, work was considered vulgar and ungentlemanly. Now, if you had to have a modern example of that, just drop it in the chat. Tell me, who do you think today that sounds like? Who does that sound like that's describing today? Is there a group or a class of people here in the United States today that thinks of work as vulgar and perhaps ungentlemanly? Not that they had, use such a multisyllabic word. How about that? A big word, multisyllabic. Radical Republican Thaddeus Stevens believed, quote, if the South is ever to be made a safe republic, let her lands be cultivated by the toil of the owners or the free labor of intelligent citizens. So the radical Republicans of the party at the time said that the Southern aristocrats, the slaveholders, were lazy, and that and Thaddeus Stevens, the head of the radical Republicans in Congress at the time, which is, by the way, depicted very brilliantly in the movie Lincoln, Steven Spielberg's Lincoln. If you've never seen it, the performance by Tommy, God, why am I forgetting everything this morning? Tommy Lee Jones as Thaddeus Stevens is an absolute brilliant work. It's a tour de force. I've seen it probably 2 or 3 times at this point, and it's fantastic. He says, if the South is ever to be made a safe republic, let our lands be cultivated by the toil of the owners, meaning you work your own lands, or the free labor of intelligent citizens. Not free labor as in like, working for free like slavery, but the free labor meaning that you're free to choose where you want to work, like Amazon warehouses today, for example. And this is, I think, another telling little tidbit here. This is from an apologist for the slave South, a guy by the name of George Fitzhugh, and he argued that the doctrine of laissez-faire, you know, libertarianism, classical liberalism, free market economics, laissez-faire. The only fair is laissez-faire. So this was a guy who's in favor of slavery, George Fitzhugh. He argued that the doctrine of laissez-faire is, quote, at war with all kinds of slavery. Like, can we please zero in on that and get this imprinted into our brains? Laissez-faire is at war with all kinds of slavery. And the Southern apologists knew this, and they stated it quite explicitly, which of course means that the people who are behind the 1619 Project are...
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Quite right. Thank you, Mr. President Biden. If slavery was the basis of capitalism, why did the capitalist North wage a war to destroy the seedbed of its own prosperity? Or to put it another way, in layman's terms, if capitalism was the basis, if slavery was the basis of capitalism, why would the Northerners want to destroy the basis of their economic system, right? Why didn't the region that was the great source of capitalism win the war? Right, based on their superior economic source of capitalism, right? They should have won the war because if their capitalist system was set up in such a way as slavery should have helped them to win the war, shouldn't it? But it didn't. It actually harmed them. And finally, excuse me, that's what happens when you're live. How did American capitalism survive the end of chattel slavery? If capitalism is built on slavery, then why is it that if we no longer have chattel slavery, why does capitalism still survive to this day? I think this is an interesting question, don't you? Now, whatever you think about the working conditions at Amazon, right, good or bad, you're still free to leave. You're free to go wherever you like. You can work for Amazon or you can not work for Amazon, right? You're free to start your own business, or you're free to quit the workplace altogether. That seems a little bit different from chattel slavery, wouldn't you think, right? But it's a cartoon, so it's the kind of thing that they want to teach to your kids in school. What do you think about this? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. You can send it as a text, or alternatively, if you would like to support the show, you can send it as a super chat. For a limited time from now until Friday, all super chats that are going in today are going into the Save Calvin Fund. My poor little French bulldog Calvin, and Calvin unfortunately has gone lame. He is not lame. He's still an awesome guy, but I mean, his little back legs are crippled, unfortunately, and we don't know if he's ever going to be able to walk again. We're going to try and get him the best care that we can. He's on steroids right now, and we're trying to rest him as much as possible, and he's got painkillers, and we're making him comfortable, but his poor little back legs just unfortunately are not going to probably not going to work again. I say that as that there is a chance that they could. There is a potential surgery that might be able to do it, but we're not going to know until we get some MRI, some imaging done, and that imaging is quite expensive. Of course, so is the surgery, and so it's going to be a little tough this year for Steffi and I. Of course, we also want to try and have a baby, and a lot of different things going on in our life. So, anyways, just an FYI, any super chats this week are going to go into the Save Calvin Fund. So typically we like to reinvest it back in the show, but you know what? This week I'm going to be a little selfish, and I'm going to ask for super chats to support Calvin. So from now until Friday, all super chats go into the Save Calvin Fund. So Amanda Henry says that breed has such issues. Yeah, you're right, Amanda. But the funny thing is that when I was looking into all the different breeds, pretty much all breeds have some issue or another. The only like really like the healthiest dogs are typically are the mutts, and Calvin we think is actually a little bit of a mutt, but it's just unfortunate that he actually just he got a bad lower back. So we're looking into like little wheelie chairs, and I have a 3D printer, so I might be able to make him one. It might make more sense just to have one made for him, but we'll see. So again, you can text the show 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Or again, you can send a super chat over in the YouTube live stream, and all donations this week go to the Save Calvin Fund. All right. So why did the Chinese use a spy balloon instead of a satellite? This was a question that a lot of people were asking on the internet. Why would they use a spy balloon rather than a satellite? It's a big question, right? And balloons, I mean, there's pretty simple, straightforward answers to this. Balloons are actually a lot cheaper, right? And you don't have to, use a rocket to send a satellite up into the moon, up to, low Earth orbit or whatever it is. Balloons are a lot cheaper, and there's a lot of other benefits to the to using a balloon versus a spy satellite, right? If a balloon gets popped like we did, right, then it's not as big of a deal than trying to use anti-satellite weaponry, right, which is kind of typically frowned upon. Spy balloons are also okay. They can be harder to detect usually because they soar very high in the air, like 60,000 feet. So that's a lot higher than most airplanes can typically go. Some balloon surveillance devices can actually go as high as 100,000 feet in the air, which makes them pretty much untouchable. And the Chinese balloon was actually at one point traveling at the altitude of around 60,000 feet, and that's well above the limit for commercial air traffic. Eventually, an F-22 fighter jet shot the balloon down, but that might not have been an option if the balloon had been at a high altitude. So if the balloon at the time of them attempting to shoot it down had been about 80,000 feet, then an F-22 might not have even been able to reach it at that, right? So, and ground-based like surface to air missiles, things like that, they wouldn't have been able to do it right. So, you're still in somebody's airspace, right? But you're not in space, but you're technically up pretty high. Spy balloons could be more useful than a satellite because balloons are much more maneuverable, and they also have the greater ability to hover over a target, right? To what they call, I think, loiter. So they offer a flexibility of payload, maneuverability, and loitering time on station. So because the Chinese apparently showed off by having their balloon loiter over our nuclear missile silo sites, right? A satellite has to continue its orbit, and sometimes the photographs that satellites get are not whenever you see movies like what was that Will Smith movie or something like that, they showed like the satellite going enhance, 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 and you think that it's like this beautiful perfect picture. It's not always, right? It's the technology for balloons is such that since it can stay in one place, you can often get better photography with a balloon than you can with a satellite. So there are a lot of reasons why a balloon is more useful than a spy satellite. But finally, I guess some good news: the F-22 fighter that we spent $1 trillion in developing finally won a firefight. No, it's like $67 billion or something like that. After more than 20 years of development, the F-22 jet finally won a dogfight against an unarmed, immobile opponent. So I guess congratulations to the Pentagon there. Yeah, so officially the F-22 entered service in 2005, and the Air Force was saying that this is an exponential leap in warfighting capabilities, and we paid $67 billion to buy 187 of these planes, which have been in development since the 80s, and but this was actually its very first ever victory against an airborne adversary. It popped a balloon, so. Pentagon buys a lot of expensive toys that have no use. The F-22 has never had a clear purpose, and some Republicans actually tried to cut funding for the fighter back in '99, and of course they didn't do it because you can never cut funding for anything in the government. It's a big waste of time and money. All right, I'm gonna go get Hannah Cox. She's based, I tell you. the founder of basepolitics.com. I want to talk to her about capitalism and slavery, and California is proposing to pay reparations. So they're going to take money from people who never held slaves and give them to people who were never slaves. Talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Are you excited to see me? Be up so bright and early for? Oh, I know. It's because you love the show. I'm glad you're here. It's because we get some of the best guests in the morning news talk. My next guest is one of those. She's based, I tell you. She's Hannah Cox, and she is the co-founder of basepolitics.com, and she's joining us live on camera right now. Good morning, Hannah. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Austin. Good to be here.
Glad to have you here with us. Hannah, this morning I was playing a clip from this Proud Family video that's kind of like critical race theory, Marxism for kids video that came out. And I've been sort of going through some of the claims that were made in this video, talking about whether or not slavery created capitalism. And I've been reading over the last couple of days that the state of California is apparently proposing to pay reparations, they say, to minorities. Some cities are looking at it, but now actually an entire state might do it. What's the story here, Hannah?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack in that little Disney cartoon, but we'll leave that there for now. Yes, Brad and I covered this on our show, the Base Politics Show, last week. It's really a very crazy proposal. What happened is San Francisco commissioned a committee to investigate giving out reparations and sort of put together a picture of what that would need to look like to really have justice. And what they came back with is one of the craziest proposals I've ever seen. And I've seen some weird stuff in politics, but they basically said that anybody who identifies as Black for more than 10 years could be eligible to get this money, first and foremost, as long as they meet 2 of other 8 conditions. Now, the other 8 conditions are things, only one of which is that you're actually a descendant of slaves. There are other things like you've been impacted by the war on drugs. Now, listen, you and I are as anti-war on drugs as they come, but I don't think you should get reparations because of the war on drugs. We're going to go get reparations to everybody who's been convicted for bogus crimes in this country. No. And they want to do it to the tune of $5 million per person impacted. They want to also have loan forgiveness for those people and also pay them up to $98,000 per year for something like 200 plus years. So this is a just bonkers town proposal. If you were to do this, there's a study that came out of Berkeley. It said it would be about $223 billion. The city's budget is currently at $15 billion, and they are one of the highest tax regions in the nation, and they're also broke.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, I'm speaking to Hannah Cox. She's the co-founder of basepolitics.com. We're talking to her about a proposal in California to pay reparations. I think it's funny because they're talking about taking money from people who never owned slaves and giving them to people who never were slaves. I mean, a lot of the people, a large amount of the population here in the United States that live here today are the descendants of people who came over here during Ellis Island years. I mean, and you know what somebody, I think my brother actually made this point the other day, Hannah, and I wonder what you think about this. Don't you think that the blood of the soldiers who died in the Civil War fighting to end slavery is a pretty good source of reparations?
Yeah, I think that we often forget just what it costs to end slavery in this country. We also forget that we are one of many places that had slavery. This wasn't an institution that we baked up here, and it was a heinous part of history. It's something that humanity has thankfully moved away from as we've increasingly seen capitalism expand and find that people can make money in more ethical ways under that system. So I think it was a horrible thing in history, but oftentimes what you see happen is, especially on the left, sometimes on the right too, is when people want to get their pet project done, when they want to get a certain outcome, they'll start invoking very emotional, very charged subjects like slavery, like children, and they'll use this to try to get their end agenda goal done. I don't think that reparations has ever really been about slavery, if I'm being quite frank. I think it is about getting a substantial amount of the population on essentially a universal basic income. It's sort of trying to move a larger percent of the population to being dependent on the government because their end goal is communism. Let's be frank. I mean, this is where these people are trying to get. They don't want there to be any quote, quote, inequality, any discrepancy in who has what. And that's what I think this proposal kind of lays bare. Even if you were to be able to go back and say, okay, these are the actual descendants of slaves, these are the actual people who were harmed, $5 million? $5 million? I mean, it doesn't track at all. It's not really based on trying to make restitution. It's again about trying to buy votes, I think, trying to keep people really dependent on a party or a system.
Hannah, did you see that cartoon, the Proud Family cartoon? And if so, what were your thoughts on it?
I saw it. I only saw it once. It's interesting. You said you're going through and dissecting it kind of line by line. I'll have to go back and hear your analysis because there was a lot in it. They said a lot in about 2 minutes. I have sort of a nuanced take on it. I think that I hate Marxism and I hate the movement to try to bake it into some of our curriculum through things like CRT. So I'm very opposed to some of these ways of teaching and just the lens with which they see the world and history. That being said, I also think there can be a massive overcorrection overcorrection on the right when people frankly don't want to talk about our real history. They don't want to talk about the actual harms and injustices that the American government has perpetrated, not just against Black people, but against many people over the past 250 years. They have sort of this raw America attitude. And I'm not of that notion. I think you can love our country, love our founding, love the intentionality that was behind the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, while also recognizing and calling out that we have never lived up to it, that we have had just about every single one of our leaders actually violate it in some major way, and make sure that we're actually teaching kids about those occurrences so that they are better on guard against their government moving forward, so that we hopefully do have an educated population that will recognize when those things are happening again under our very noses and rise up to stomp them out. So I thought that the video sort of had both under that umbrella. I thought parts of it were important pieces of history and were absolute hard truths about Black history in particular in this country. I thought other parts of it really obviously veered into what I would label CRT. But this is kind of the problem with CRT, is it's sort of a catch-all moniker. Nobody can give you a hardline definition of what is CRT, what is actually just Black history. And I think that's a big part of the culture war issue over the subject, is we're using different terminology to mean different things.
For sure. And yeah, and that was, by the way, that was a great analysis. Let's give her an applause there. She's based. She's Hannah Cox. She's the co-founder of basepolitics.com. We're talking about critical race theory. We're talking about reparations. And I'd like to ask you, Hannah, I have never been opposed to Black History Month. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite lessons that I had in history class as a young man were learning about slavery, learning about the antebellum South and the Civil War and the mistakes that were made in the United States. And, 1776, the musical, you can learn about how slavery was, they attempted to end slavery at the founding, but because of political compromises, it was impossible to do. In order to band together to defeat Great Britain, they needed the South. And if they had ended slavery in 1776, then the South would have never fought with them. South Carolina and North Carolina and all those southern colonies would not have fought with the North against the United Kingdom. So people wouldn't have enjoyed the freedoms that we have today in the modern United States if that compromise hadn't been made. It kind of shows you just how history is not black and white. History is not necessarily just battles of good and evil. There's nuance and there's gray areas in between. And politics is also about what is possible, not what is morally correct at any given time, but what is possible to achieve, which I really think, a lot of libertarians could stand to learn that lesson when it comes to Abraham Lincoln, because you run in libertarian circles long enough, of course. And of course, if you ask any libertarian who the worst president in American history is, for them, the top three would be Woodrow Wilson and FDR, which I would certainly put up there. But a lot of libertarians would also put Abraham Lincoln at the top of that list, and I don't think I would actually go that far. But I wonder what your take is, because the problem is with everything woke turns to shit, Hannah. And when it comes to Black History Month, it almost seems that it was inevitable that it was going to be captured by these kinds of Marxist forces, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I agree with you. Any kind of wokeism, progressivism, socialism, call it whatever name you want to, but it is a philosophy of destitution and ultimately of death. And there is no arguing with this. The data is conclusive. The history is long. This is something that erodes a society and erodes an economy and erodes wealth. And I think that we see the effects of that already starting to seep into this country. When it comes to Black History Month, I agree that they capture it because they've captured the school system, right? That's mostly where people are learning about Black history, is when they're in school, and you have government schools that are predominantly educating the kids and youth in our country. And they have been absolutely taken over by the very radical left-wing teachers unions and by administrators who love the big government because they are on the teat, right? They are totally profiteering off of it and want to continue that gravy train. So I think that is inevitable. I do think Black History Month is important. I got a wonderful education, especially compared to most people in this country. I was very, very fortunate. I have very highly educated parents. My mom stayed home and homeschooled my siblings and I for the first 5 grade levels for me. I then went to a very intensive sort of part-time homeschool, part-time co-op in Louisville, and then I went to private school. So I had a really good education. I completed a 4-year college degree. The amount that I did not know at the end of that process about Black history is shocking to me. It's shocking to me. And I didn't have parents who were trying to hide that from me. We read a lot about slavery. We read a lot about abolitionists and about the movement to overthrow it. And that was something that was very ingrained in me and I grew up appreciating. But I didn't know about so many things that came after slavery, like genuinely did not know about things like the Tulsa Massacre or the amount of lynchings that were carried out, state sanctioned lynchings throughout the South for decades after slavery ended. So I think it's really important that we do have Black History Month, that we do make more of an effort to ensure that kids are learning about their real history. I think that has to come down to the parents, though. There has to be awareness among adults in this country that the government school system is failing. If you think it's failing in math and science, we know it is. You can best believe it's also failing in history and teaching people more of our civil liberties and about our democracy and those things. So you've got to step up and make sure that you're the ones actually getting these things in front of your kids. And I think that parents are the ones who can do a better job of providing nuance, because when you're talking to kids, some of these things are heinous and scary and hard to discuss. And I think that requires sort of a Midas touch in making sure that you aren't sugarcoating things from kids, but that you are kind of delivering it in a way that they can handle it, whatever age they're at.
I like that. Hannah, one of our friends, Quest Fanning, sent us a super chat today, and he has a question for you. He says, do you think that the woke agenda is making anti-white violence be considered socially acceptable? Is it truly dangerous?
I don't think it's becoming acceptable. I certainly don't think that's the case. I think that violence as a whole is for the most part condemned, right? It's only the very extreme fringes of any political ideology that you would see condone certain kinds of violence. I do think it's becoming very visible, sort of the Antifa and some of these groups, hate groups online. I think it has become acceptable not to be violent towards white people, but maybe to dislike white people openly, to have open hatred of white people, or at least mockery of white people. And I certainly see that becoming more and more prevalent online. And it kind of seems like that's sort of the last, group of people that it's okay to make snide remarks about. It's okay to generalize. It's okay to stereotype. And I think that we need to be proactive about always condemning any sort of collective ideology, because that's what it really comes down to. That's a collectivist mentality, and that's ridiculous. Everybody is an individual just because of their skin color or their socioeconomic status or any other kind of identifiers about them. It doesn't mean you can put them in an ideological group or assume things about their character. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I mean, it's a good point, Hannah. It's funny because if you think about it, the woke left and the white supremacist right both intrinsically believe in this concept of race essentialism. It's just that that the white supremacists believe that blacks are inherently, thieves and murderers, and Chinese are, whatever that it is that they believe about Chinese people. But but then on the left, the woke the woke believe in the same concept of race essentialism, that we get our rights and that we get our history is sort of predetermined by the color of our skin at our birth, which is the polar opposite of liberalism or libertarianism or classical liberalism, what you and I believe. I mean, it is kind of fascinating that in many ways the woke and the white supremacists are in the same boat.
Yeah. Have you seen that kind of, I don't know, it's a YouTube video mocking this. It's like a guy who's a racist. He has a shirt that says racist, and it's a guy who's like focused, and they're agreeing on so many things. And it's quite funny because you're absolutely right. These two mentalities, they go so far to the fringes, they kind of meet on the other side. And I certainly think that that's the case that we see right now. It's interesting to observe. We have spent decades, centuries working to have equality under the law for all people. And now that we finally arguably have it, the left is arguing to go back the other way, right? Like, no, wait a second. We actually would really like to discriminate against certain people for equity and hold some people back so that other people can get ahead. And it's a very bizarre thing to witness. There's no ideological consistency there whatsoever. But like I said, I think they are following a philosophy of death. Like, I think it not only leads to actual deaths, I think it ruins your mind. I think it erodes your brain. It's just a very corruptive philosophy that is based on greed. It is based on hatred. It is based on jealousy. And I think that you can see the effects of that on every level in this country.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Hannah, what are you and Brad Palumbo working on over at basepolitics.com these days? What do you guys got over there in your kicker? Got any new articles or reports or research coming out?
We do. We are off to the races at Base Politics. And Austin, I'm sure you know this, but starting a business is very hard in this country. So a lot of what we're doing behind the scenes right now is dealing with the government behind the scenes, which is all kinds of barriers in place. I mean, just filing your taxes as a nonprofit is unbelievably difficult, the amount of reports. So just always having to deal with that. I think it's important people understand just how hard they make it to have a business in this country, which is disgusting in and of itself. But aside from that, we have a lot of good new programs coming out. We are going to be at a couple big events coming up soon. We're actually going to be in Seattle at an event for the Walk Away campaign. It's going to be a debate at the University of Washington. It's going to be a left versus right debate, but Brad and I are kind of like right center. We're not really like far right at all. So it'll be interesting to see where we maybe agree with some people on the left or we disagree. We're also going to be at Freedom Fest coming up in Memphis this summer. So we're really excited about that. I think you'll be there as well. And then on the website, which is base-politics.com, we've got new articles every day. We have articles coming out our ears. People can catch our show on Wednesday mornings on all podcast platforms and on Brad's YouTube. So we'd love for people to join us and tune in.
I read Base Politics every day to help keep me strong. Fight for freedom and follow Hannah Cox as well. Hannah, great interview. As usual, we appreciate your nuanced takes and your fight for liberty as well. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Austin.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Hannah Cox? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We got lots more great show to go. Ian Howarth is going to join us at 8:30 a.m. this morning. We're going to talk to him about the whole satanic panic situation. And then Camelia Peterson joins us at 8 o'clock. Talk about some Marxist here stating wants to bomb school choicers with fertilizer, nitrous fertilizer. It's the weirdest thing you've ever seen. And lots more great content to go. You don't want to miss it a single minute. I love seeing all the trolls over the stream this morning. These were doing something right. Yes, we love to see it. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today? Nice. Happy Tuesday. Glad you're here. It's nice that the weather's finally warming up a little bit, isn't it? Wouldn't you love to see it? Because honestly, it's just been way too dang cold here. Everybody hates February for that reason, but we love it because I love it because it's my birthday month. Tomorrow's my brother Justin's birthday. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, give my brother a nice big shout out because he's going to be turning old. God, he's so old. And I'll be turning younger than my brother, 4 years younger than my brother. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We got lots more great show to go. Camelia Peterson will be joining us here in a few minutes to talk about this Charles Jaco Marxist terrorist. And also, we've got another story for you as well. Oh, Missouri Senate apparently is going to hear another Don't Say Gay bill. Missouri's version of the Don't Say Gay bill. Don't say it. Don't say it.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Exactly. Don't say it. You know, we're not gay here. We're like Joe Biden.
Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady with a waistcoat.
See, Joe Biden doesn't like the man. He likes the ladies. He likes the 19-year-old ladies. We're glad to have you here, Justin. But yes, exactly. It reminds me a little, that's like that quote from Back to the Future Part 2 where she sees herself when she's younger, or she like comes back to the future and sees herself when she's old, and she's like, and then they pass out. It's always weird. You can send a super chat over on the live stream if you'd like to have your chat read on air. By the way, thank you for that super chat earlier, Quest. Quest Fanning sent us $10. I think he might have accidentally donated twice on accident, but if you didn't, then Quest, let me know. If you did do that on accident, Quest, and you want your $5 back, we will refund you. But just so you know, all of the donations that are made this week from super chats are going to help a good cause. We're going to try and get Calvin some imaging. Our little French bulldog, unfortunately, his little back legs are paralyzed, possibly permanently, but we're going to find out after we get some imaging done. So if you want to help support Calvin and get his little back legs fixed, possibly, then make a super chat donation this week. We appreciate you very much. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Glad to have you here on the program today. So for the criticisms of Abraham Lincoln from libertarians, some of the criticisms are valid and some of them aren't. It's kind of like some of the same revisionist history that's written about the use of nuclear weapons in Japan at the end of World War II. And I'll say this. The valid criticism of things like, Abraham Lincoln at the beginning of the Civil War said that he would keep slavery legal for all time if the Union would only stay together, that was his primary cause, was the primary cause of the Civil War. I don't know that you can say there is a primary cause for the Civil War, because wars never start over one single cause. Wars are always about multiple competing, financial, moral, economic interests between one, two groups, many groups, And so the Civil War, to say that the Civil War was about slavery, I think is probably an oversimplification, as well as to say, as libertarians like to say, that the Civil War was about secession as an oversimplification. I think the war was about slavery and it was about secession. Two things can be true at once. But I think that it's revisionist history BS when you hear people say that Civil War wasn't about slavery. Um, because anybody who has any concept of how the Civil War began, ask yourself this question: where did the Army of the South come from? Did it just suddenly materialize out of nowhere? When you sit down and you analyze how Robert E. Lee managed to build a ragtag army that actually won battles against an organized force and fought them in similar ways, I mean, the South didn't fight a guerrilla war. The South fought an actual army on army, typical standard formation style, battalions against battalions type of a war, not like the Vietnamese did to the United States. But if the South had fought that kind of war, perhaps they might have won, or at least it would probably not, because they didn't have the economic factors, because slavery was not good for their economy. Turns out that slavery and capitalism are not quite so intertwined, is it? Not quite such a powerful slavery, not such a powerful economic system, is it? But when it comes to the question of how the South built their army, ask yourself this: do you know how the South built their army? It wasn't as if the Civil War started and all of a sudden these troops were just marched out of nowhere. It takes time to build armies. It takes time to train them. After Bleeding Kansas and God, I'm forgetting his name right now. From Kansas, John Brown. After John Brown raided Harper's Ferry, the South started to form militias as a response to the takeover at Harper's Ferry, the attempted insurrection and slave rebellion that John Brown attempted to commit when he raided Harper's Ferry. So the South was dedicated to protecting their peculiar institution, as they like to say, and started to form militias for the express purpose of protecting slavery, because they saw that these northern abolitionists were trying to incite slave rebellions. The Army of the South, the Confederate Army, didn't just come out of nowhere, and they didn't form as it wasn't as if they instituted this tariff on the South. Here's the thing: the Confederate Army didn't form after they started a tariff. The Confederate Army formed when John Brown raided Harper's Ferry and attempted to incite a slave rebellion. Right? That's how the Southern Army was started. And then libertarian revisionist historians of Abraham Lincoln will say, well, Abraham Lincoln, did all these terrible things in the leader of war. Leaders in war do terrible things. But the question is this: even by the non-aggression principle, even if you're going by the non-aggression principle, which I typically do not, even if you go by the NAP, he who smelt it dealt it. The South fired first, right? Lincoln was very clever in not attacking the South. The South attacked first. They fired on Fort Sumner. And as we like to say in Austin Peterson's land, talk shit, get hit. Don't want none, don't start none. Don't be none. How about that? You start it, I'll end it. Anybody who has any cursory understanding of self-defense understands that you don't give proportionate force to someone who is attacking you. You give disproportionate force so they can end the threat. Somebody pulls a knife on you, you shoot him, right? You don't say, oh, okay, well, he's got a knife, I'm only gonna pull out a knife. No, you use overwhelming force and you burn Atlanta, burn the South, march to the sea. Oh boy. Hope no libertarian revisionist historians are watching that. I'm sure they will cut it later and say, I'm pretty sure that destroying the slaveholding governments of the South is one of the most libertarian things the United States has ever done. Every death to all slaveholding governments, says the libertarian. What's more libertarian than that? Let's talk to Camellia about how libertarian she is. And I'll have her give her treatise on Abraham Lincoln. No, I won't have her do any of that kind of stuff. We're going to talk to her about something nice and easy. We're going to talk to Camellia Peterson about Missouri's Don't Say Gay bill. That's it. Don't say gay. Don't say it. Don't say the gay. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
the Cantina Crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com. Are you guys enjoying all those trolls in the comments today? Yeah? Or it's kind of wild out there. What is going on? It's a good thing that we've got so many moderators. I made Quest Fanning a moderator, and then he goes and hops in the shower. Quest, we need you back, bud. We need you more than ever. No, it's fun to see. It's, as we grow, we're going to continue to see things like that. Just rack it up to growing pains. My next guest is Camellia Peterson, who's joining us for her regular Tuesday spot. Good morning, CJ. Thanks for joining us on the program today.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Yeah, like that little coffee mug there from the AP for Liberty shop. We've been selling a lot of those things lately. I guess people really like it. Thanks for doing a little advertising for us there. CJ, who is Charles Jaco, and why does he want to murder us?
Right. Well, Charles Jaco, I think, is kind of a washed up has-been, and he would probably hate to hear that, but it's the truth. He is a quote unquote journalist from the St. Louis area. And so he used to work for NBC, CNN, did some coverage in the Gulf War. Apparently he has, I don't know all of his background stories. Apparently he doesn't have a great background or reputation. He also, after he stopped working for those media outlets, he did some local work in St. Louis. And this is something I had not realized at the time you might find interesting, is he's actually the one who did the infamous interview with Todd Aiken.
Oh, interesting.
Remember that, where, Aiken was running against Claire McCaskill and, unfortunately said that when he was asked about abortion, he said something about that women rarely become pregnant as a result of, quote, legitimate rape. And obviously Todd Aiken didn't think those things, but he phrased it very badly. And so everybody took off with that then, and he was done. But anyway, so Charles Jaco is, calls everybody a fascist. That's kind of a thing, with some of these people in Missouri. They either call everybody on the right fascist or Christo-fascist. They especially like that for people who have any kind of Christo-fascist. Yeah. So he kind of got some attention when Greg Keller tweeted a tweet that Jaco had put up the other day. And Jaco was responding to a Fox News headline that was talking about the House Judiciary subpoenaing the FBI Director Wray on targeting parents at school board meetings. Remember hearing about that? The FBI was coming after parents. And so what Jaco said about that was, he said the only thing the neo-Nazi parents groups need to be targeted with is a truckload of ammonium nitrate.
Well, that's the kind of thing that typically gets people in big trouble, but I guess no backlash to him from that, other than from the right.
Yeah, no, and I do think that Twitter did take some action finally with his account. I don't know that he got banned or anything like that. He may have had to delete the tweet, because when I look back, I don't see that. So unless it's older and I just didn't see it yet, but I think that he did probably have to delete that tweet and got in trouble. But that doesn't stop him. He's still at it, calling people fascists and criticizing people who have done a lot of work. We've seen a lot of work in the education realm with parents getting on school boards. They finally realized the importance of, making their voices heard and getting into those elected positions. So there've been some St. Louis area schools where they've been successful in that. And so he's, targeting them now. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, school choice has come to the forefront and is, being successful in some places around the country, at least getting successfully passed. And now the fight is on here in the state of Missouri. So how are things going, and why are all of our friends fighting?
It's discouraging, to be perfectly honest with you, because now is the time for momentum in school choice. And we've talked a lot about our friend Corey DeAngelis and the work that he has done in the school choice fight. And even during lockdowns, during, all of the COVID lockdowns, Corey DeAngelis was the one who was going to the wall for parents and students, and he was shining a light on the hypocrisy in all of these teachers' unions. And he went mercilessly after Randy Weingarten, the president of the teachers unions. And he brought so much national attention to this. He's worked with legislatures and governors all across the country. He has Governor Abbott on board. They've been doing great work in Texas. In Iowa, they passed some fantastic education freedom legislation for money following the child, and he was instrumental in that fight as well. So he's
Our friend
done
Scott
really
Fawn
great
thinks he's a
work.
weenie.
Yeah, I know. And so that's part of the problem is that not only are we getting pushback to education freedom for kids, on the left, but now it's kind of coming from the right too. There is a segment of the right that's going after, after people like Corey DeAngelis and honestly, people like me, organizations like Americans for Prosperity. Because it's a little confusing, but first of all, they like to find the boogeyman and everything. So they're accusing Corey DeAngelis of being, in cahoots with UNESCO and the UN. And there's this big conspiracy to, funnel money away from public schools into their own agenda. It makes no sense, and it's just, there's no basis to it. But they've been.
Hell is UNESCO.
It is like it's the education. It's the education part of the UN. It's a program that they've done, and
they really think so. Wait a minute. So right wingers in Missouri think that the United Nations wants school choice. Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, right. There's some big agenda behind it because these other people have their own agenda, and it just is.
We have to put up with enough retardation from the left. Can we please get on the same page here on the right?
It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, except globalism or whatever.
6 degrees from globalism. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to my friend Camellia Peterson. We are not related. We're talking about school choice and the battle for it here in the state of Missouri. Now we've got a new battle on our hands. Apparently, Missouri is advancing our own version of a Don't Say Gay bill. Hooray! Obviously it's a misnomer, Camellia. It's not about saying gay to kids, although it would be kind of weird, I think, for someone to talk to a 5-year-old in their class about what it means to be gay. But what is this Missouri bill all about? They say it goes further than Florida, which is kind of exciting.
Right. So I think, in Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, it prohibited classroom instruction on sexual orientation, gender identity, just for kindergarten through 3rd grade. So here in Missouri, Senator Mike Moon has taken that a little bit further and has said, you know what? Teachers in Missouri schools and public schools should not be allowed to have those conversations with students of any age. And I think that is perfectly fine. And he did qualify it with, if it has to be somebody who is qualified in the mental health field and with the permission of parents. There's the key thing, is permission of the parents to have those conversations with kids. But yeah, they are up in arms about it and saying it's the, Missouri's version, except for so much worse. And there have been tweets this morning, because I think the hearing on it is today. And so there have been tweets this morning about people who are on their way to the Capitol to testify about this and how oppressive it is. Do you know what? It's none of the schools have no business covering those kind of things with kids without parents' knowledge. That's just, we don't co-parent with the government. We don't co-parent, with school administrators. Just stay out. I mean, reading, writing, arithmetic, history, and even that's debatable sometimes. but yeah, there's just cover those basics. And I told somebody the other day that, we have all of these diversity, equity, and inclusion officials or, people in schools now. It's like these DEI officers are everywhere in organizations and schools. And really, probably if we wanted to do something to make real headway in getting a lot of this junk out of our publicly funded schools, our government funded schools, let's be accurate about it. We should defund those positions. We don't need those people there. And that would probably eliminate a lot of these issues.
No kidding. I'm reading the Riverfront Times, which is, of course, a leftist rag. It says a bill proposed by Senator Mike Moon would prohibit nurses, teachers, and other school personnel from discussing sexual orientation and gender identity. Senate Bill 134. Such topics could only be broached by licensed mental health care providers with a parent or legal guardian's permission. I love it. But Shira Berkowitz, who they're interviewing here, she's a senior director of public policy and advocacy for Promo. She says it's a book ban, a curriculum ban, and encourages an environment of bullying. I'm in favor of bullying leftists who want to try and indoctrinate our kids and talk to them about sex. We should be bullying
Well,
these. We should be bullying these people, shouldn't we?
yeah, and the thing is like this is why transparency is so important, and this is why the movement for parents getting involved in school boards is so important. And it's been great because here's the thing that a lot of these school board elections are held. They happen in April in Missouri, and so our legislature is also in session, from January to mid-May, and so as someone who's trying to go around talking to these same people about policy issues and what's going on in the legislature, it's actually kind of hard to get into meetings and things right now because they have so many candidates speaking, which is awesome. But it's one of these things where Hannah brought this up, even with like CRT. They're always going to find a way to get it. It's not going to be as obvious as that cartoon, which is heinous. That's so ridiculous. But they will find ways to work this into curriculum. And it's like playing whack-a-mole, like we ban CRT here, we ban. Really, the ultimate answer to all of this is increased choice for parents. Walk away from those schools, have a free market in our education system so that we can innovate. And so parents don't have to keep their kids in there, because I know, and this is something, Scott Fawn and I argue about. He's like, well, parents can always move. And I'm like, well, no, not every parent can always move. There's no way that I would be able to homeschool my girls right now, even as I do it, if I did not have a good support system, because I certainly can't afford to send them to, a private school that I would prefer without significant financial assistance. But, I can do what I'm doing right now, but only because I have that support system in place. And so many parents don't have that. They don't have that option.
That's a good point. What do you think about that? We'd love to hear from you. You can text the show at 573-319-1586 if you'd like to have your text read on air. You can also send us a super chat if you'd like to support the show over on YouTube at youtube.com/AP4Liberty. Don't forget to switch to live chat. YouTube, for some reason, likes to switch everybody over to top chat all the time so that you can see all the comments. And we've got some new friends over there today. Looks like Deplorable MAGA says that this is his new favorite program. Awesome, man. Appreciate that. And thanks for joining us today. And Al Johnson says, getting rid of the arts and theater programs in school. Get rid of them, I guess. Children need to learn to march and defend themselves during war. What do you think about that?
Well, I would disagree. Actually,
why is that, Camellia?
I actually think that, development in the arts and theater and those aspects, I think is actually really important, along with, all of these other basic things. I am a fan of the classical style of educating. That's what I do have done with my girls through different homeschool programs and through a hybrid academy right now. And you learn the basics. You learn all the reading, writing, and arithmetic, but you also learn not only history and science, but you also learn how to think, how to debate. You learn the rhetoric. You learn the arts so that you learn the arts so that you know how to relate to people. Because so much, the biggest problem, if you talk to anybody, when you look at it objectively, the difference between the left and the right in what has been effective is appeal to emotion. And I know we do not like to hear that, but the truth is that you have to be able to convey your ideas in a way that people can relate to them, and that they need to be able to have empathy for that and know that, oh, this affects somebody I really dearly love, or it affects me personally. And that is really what is going to move them to action or see the importance in something. So we need to be on the right. We need to be better at communicating our ideas, and the arts are an important part of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was a point that I was going to make, Camellia. I'm glad you made it first because, I went through the arts program. I was a musical theater major. And despite what Deplorable MAGA says, he says it's the arts that are turning them gay. I don't think that that's the case. But I'll tell you that the fact is that we've got plenty of conservatives who know how to march and who know how to go to war. We don't have plenty of conservatives who are like Clint Eastwood, who can, make awesome Hollywood pictures. We don't have plenty of conservatives who can make great documentaries. We don't have plenty of conservatives who can tell the story of our views and beliefs in a way that the American people find palatable. Right at the moment, the indoctrination that's coming out of Hollywood and the media is left-wing Marxist indoctrination, and we don't have a good counter to that because conservatives don't invest a lot of money into the arts or education. And you know what the problem is, though, Camellia? It's counterintuitive. right? And it becomes kind of a chicken or egg scenario, right? Because it's like, do people go into the arts because they're gay, or are people does the arts turn them gay, right? So, but the question is that, if we had a better educational system and a more classical education that consisted of the arts and sports and philosophy and all of this, we've sort of, in a way, the way our educational system has worked is that we've kind of cordoned it off. If you're a masculine man, you don't go and sing and dance and learn poetry and art and philosophy, because that's the intellect, that realm is for eggheads. But it reminds me a little bit about that quote. I don't know if it was Marcus Aurelius or someone who's like a country that has its fighters only doing the fighting and its intellectuals only doing, the thinking, will have its fighting done by idiots and its thinking done by cowards.
Right. And universities, when you look back historically, universities weren't just where you went to, learn science and upper mathematics and all of those things. Universities were where people went to debate big ideas and to learn philosophy and, arts and things like that. So those things we like to kind of blow them off, but they are really foundational to the direction of your culture. And they shape so much of what we do.
Here it is. Thucydides. The nation that makes a great distinction between its scholars and its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. If that isn't the United States today, I don't know what is. Camelia, is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know before we let you go? I can't wait for you to you're going to want to stick around for my next guest. We're going to talk about the Satanic Panic. Are you excited for that one?
Yeah. Well, I will just say, one of the things in my role with Americans for Prosperity that we do is that we do a lot of grassroots advocacy training. And part of that includes not just teaching people about what the proper role of their government is, but also is this messaging part. Is like, this is what you need to do to really be effective. And I think that's something that really everybody should be paying attention to. It's not enough to rant and rave online. You need to be able to learn how to speak to your neighbors in a way that's effective to share your messaging. So, be cognizant of that. Look for those opportunities to learn those things, because we can all be better at that. I can be better at that. And
absolutely.
Give Calvin kisses.
I will. He's hurting, unfortunately, but we'll do our best for him. Camelia, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate your Tuesdays and Thursdays gigs. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Camelia Peterson? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Now that the trolls are gone, we're actually getting some awesome conversation over there on the live stream. I really want to comment over there, but I can't because I got to run this damn show. Good to see Jacob Champion, Joni Rankin, Quest Fanning, Amanda Henry, and Justin Peterson, and all of our friends, Tully Owens. Nice to see you guys. All right, I've got great guests still left to go. Ian Howworth is not going to take the satanic bait from Sam Smith and the Grammys in Hollywood. We'll talk about that in just a few when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today? Thanks so much for tuning in to the program. Don't forget, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. And if you want to support the show and get your text read on air, you can also send us a super chat on YouTube. All your donations are appreciated at youtube.com/AP4Liberty. Of course, we do stream on multiple other platforms as well. You can watch us wherever you like. All right, it's the new satanic panic. I'm a child of the 80s, so I grew up at a time when everybody was terrified that Def Leppard and Leonard Skinner and all the death metal bands of the 1980s were going to ensure that your kids were going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons and reading Harry Potter books and just go straight to hell. Well, now it seems there's a new satanic panic. The Grammys the other day that you didn't watch, but everybody's talking about, featured a performance by Sam Smith, a singer who I have no idea who he is. And the only reason I know why he is so many conservatives are freaking out online that apparently he dressed up like Satan. And of course, every time you see a conservative taking your timeline, it's about the new Luciferian New World Order coming from the World Economic Forum globalist agenda through the United Nations. And that's how they're going to put the vaccine chip in our brains through the RFID. And that's how they're going to control us and make us live in the pod and eat the bugs. Well, one conservative doesn't necessarily have that take. When I saw yesterday his mild-mannered response to this, I said to myself, wait, this guy's a conservative? Okay, yes, he is a conservative. His name is Ian Howarth. He's the host of Off Limits, and he's a British Jewish guy in Nashville. And that might explain his much more recent take. He's joining us right now on the program. Good morning, Ian Howarth. Nice to have you on the program today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I saw your take on Instagram, so why don't you just give it to our listeners straight like they've never heard it. What was your response to seeing Sam Smith dressing up like Satan and the Grammys as a conservative?
Yeah, honestly, all I saw was a ridiculous kind of chubby tomato gyrating on the screen for attention, because that's all he is. Like, it's a way of making sure that you get both sides of the media apparatus talking about you frantically. You get a lot of clicks out of it. The fact it was sponsored by Pfizer is just the cherry on this particular cake, and it sends everyone into an uproar. The left go mad because they love that kind of thing. They love seeing very overweight people squeezed into things that are 2 sizes too small. To look at Lizzo, for example. The right get very upset because anything to do with the devil, people lose their mind. I mean, the devil is bad, just putting that out there, but I do not believe Sam Smith is the devil. And it's this cycle that just goes round and round. Everyone makes money until the next news cycle.
Ian, pretty hilarious. I say tomato, you say tomato. We're glad to have you here on the Wake Up America show. Yeah, it's funny because when I saw your take on that yesterday, I thought, oh, this is a really reasonable take on it. But then I realized, you're not an evangelical Christian. You are a conservative, though. And I imagine, I guess I have to ask, how long have you spent in the United States? Are you sort of familiar with conservative culture when it comes to issues like this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been here since 2013, so I'm pretty ingrained. I'm in that middle zone, though, where for some people I'm not American enough, and for British people they think I'm a radical, crazy, gun-toting American, which I am, except for the radical and crazy part. And so it's there's no home sometimes, but yeah, very much ingrained in conservative media. I've been doing conservative media solely for quite a few years now. And so you see this cycle come up. It's not just Sam Smith. I think that's what really stood out to me, is if this was a one-off, I would kind of understand the outrage. But the left have discovered a very kind of easy routine. It's like a recipe for success in the short term, which is just do something you know is going to upset people, spit in someone's eye. And I think there's a time and a place where outrage is valid, but there's also a time and a place where you just laugh at someone for embarrassing themselves. Like Sam Smith in leather pants gyrating around on screen. If that is what Satan is, I don't think people should be too scared of hell, honestly. It's just absurd.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweeted yesterday, if I was Satan, I would have been embarrassed by that performance. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Ian Howarth. We're talking to him about Sam Smith's performance in the Grammys and the conservative panic, the satanic panic, because of him dressing up like Satan and Lucifer. I guess, we'll get a little bit deeper into this topic here. My wife is culturally Jewish. I guess, I was raised evangelical Christian, so I understand and know, the root fear that conservatives, social conservative evangelical Christians in the United States feel about Satan and Lucifer and the dark arts and whatever they say, because a lot of things are rooted in symbology for evangelical Christians. So whenever they see a symbol that they've been sort of I guess I'm trying to find a nice word to say it, but whenever they see a symbol that they've been educated is an evil symbol, it's to them, it is, it's a sign of the devil's presence. But I guess I wonder, as a Jewish man, what does the devil mean to you? I mean, what is the to you? I mean, how do you see this how do you see him as a personification of evil in your tradition?
So I think it's a lot more vague in Judaism. There's a lot of interpretations. I mean, the old adage of just, you get 6 Jews, 7 opinions. I think that's the same with anything, especially something to do with Satan. I think a lot of things to do with the afterlife in Judaism are a lot more vague. But I think just to backpedal on it a little bit, I do think a lot of these things are evil. I think like the idea of Satan is evil. I think evil obviously exists in our society. I think there are embodiments of evil. The problem I have is when there are fake embodiments of evil that are done just for clicks, just for the money. And then we give them exactly what we want. I think there are plenty of things in modern American life that are legitimately evil. I think, for example, mutilating children under the umbrella of gender reassignment, for example, is evil. But then something like Sam Smith putting on a cheap $20 costume and dressing as the devil, that is not on the same level. And conservatives respond with the exact same, vigor and anger to both things. And I think it makes us seem like we're not as focused on what is moral and what is immoral when we respond exactly the same way and give them exactly what we want. And so for me, it wasn't really anything about the devil or Satan. I don't really care what Sam Smith was dressing up as. Certainly not a very convincing version of Satan. It's, for me, just conservatives need to pick and choose when we really engage in these cultural battles, because we are so quick just to pick up our pitchforks and leap to battle that really the left are the ones controlling us right now. And that makes me very uncomfortable.
Oh, that's a great point there. Very good point there, Ian, because we frequently hear the jibe from the right towards the left that they are triggered, but sometimes the right can be just as triggered, can't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's up to us just to pump the brakes just for 10 seconds and think, is this a trap or is this legitimate?
Yeah, this is a really great conversation. I'm speaking to Ian Howarth. He is joining us now. He's a British Jewish man who is now living in Nashville, British Jewish guy in Nashville. He's the host of his own show called Off Limits, and he's a speaker at Young Americans for Freedom and Turning Point United States. He says on his social media platform, he came for the freedom and he stayed for the free refills. So yeah, I guess you came to the United States because of freedom. I guess you don't have so much of that over in Europe these days, do you?
Certainly not free refills either. That was the most, that's often one of the shocking things I tell anyone who talks about going to the UK. We're at a restaurant. I was at my friend yesterday at a restaurant. We got a Pepsi. You get charged every time in the UK for that. That is not freedom. I'll tell you that.
I mean, I saw the other day that there was a woman in Great Britain who was praying to herself silently standing outside of an abortion clinic, and she was arrested. Y'all don't really have much free speech either, as well as free refill, not to say anything of free refills in the United Kingdom, but it's become, a very scary place, I would say.
Absolutely. And a lot of places that claim to have free speech. I think that's what people really need to understand about the First Amendment, is that it's making an idea concrete in a way that other countries just don't have. People in the UK love to say, oh, it's a free country, we have free speech. They really don't. There is no actual sort of legislative system in place to ensure you have free speech. You have people arrested for tweets. I think a couple of years ago, there was someone who put out, obviously, a noxious tweet about a veteran who died. He was thrown in jail in Scotland. Like, that's the reality of, you should be able to say horrific things, but the First Amendment makes that actually possible. And it makes people have a more honest conversation about speech and also tolerance. You don't have to agree, but to tolerate ideas that you may find abhorrent, I think, is a central idea of liberty and freedom that a lot of countries, Canada is another example, simply don't have. They like to have the veneer of freedom. But when it actually comes down to anything unpleasant they don't want you to say, they'll clamp down on you pretty quickly.
He said the word, folks. He said liberty. He said the word. We love that word around here. Ian, can I ask you something? This is just sort of inside baseball kind of stuff, but you came out with this reasonable opinion about Sam Smith and the Grammys, and you're kind of in the same game as a lot of us in the social media game. You're trying to get clicks, right? You're trying to get more people to watch your content or to follow you online. Do you think you'd get more clicks, or do you think that you'd get a little bit more social media clout online if you had just jumped onto the conservative bandwagon with Sam Smith?
Yes, and I think that's the same every single day. I think there's always opportunities to kind of throw principles out the window and just do what people want, give people what they want. That's really not my mission. I think that's why I've been growing, but growing more slowly than I think I otherwise would have been. For example, when Trump was in office, I wasn't just repeating everything Trump said as gospel. Things he did well, I praised him for. Things he did badly, I criticized him for. I think that's what people who actually care about conservatism should be doing. Because I think if you're driven by principles, then that's your guiding light, and that's something consistent. But if you're just trying to give people what they want, then principles go out the window really very quickly, because a lot of people are the same. They just want easy content to consume. They want to be made angry, because that's a natural human reaction to things. We're very emotional beings. And so I think, as someone who worked in tech before this, emotions are something we easily check. And so I think that's something I'm trying to bring just to other people, to try and, again, pump the brakes on issues and really try and think what's going on beneath it, rather than just getting angry because that's exactly what they want.
I like to say that the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. Over on the live stream chat, our listeners are asking about your podcast, Ian. Our friends would love it if you would tell us a little bit about your own show. And if you wouldn't mind, drop the link over in our YouTube channel after this is all over so everybody can follow you. What's your show?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to put that link. So the show is called Off Limits. The high-level goal is basically to be a conservative voice in the kind of late-night satire space. So we talk about political and cultural issues, but with a smile, sometimes, with a bit of humor thrown in, just to try and release the pressure valve, I think, because I think a lot of people on both the left and the right, again, it's all about anger. It's all about getting people riled up. And so we talk about these issues, talk about quite important issues, but try and do it with a smile so you don't feel like you're going to go rip a wall down afterwards. And so it's called Off Limits. You can find it on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and I'll post the link in the YouTube after we've done talking.
Are there any big stories that you've been tracking other than Sam Smith? Anything that's been catching your eyes in the news that you're keen to discuss?
So I think State of the Union, unfortunately, is going to be something we're all talking about. I hate the State of the Union address. I think it's the most colossal waste of time. All it is a way of wasting a couple of hours of our lives watching one side clap, the other side sit with their arms crossed like that's some great level of protest. And we have to listen to a couple of hours of rampant propaganda. So Joe Biden's going to be coming out and talking about his economic successes where no one can afford eggs. So that's going to be an interesting one. And then I think foreign policy will keep coming up. I think the Chinese balloon was another one that a lot of people kind of interesting takes on that one. So we'll see where that story goes, because I don't think China are going away anytime soon.
One last question before we let you go from our live stream. Why, from Chris Morrill, he says, why is every Brit named Nigel or Ian?
It's because we're not very creative folks. We like to stick within tradition,
Well, we're glad that we have appropriated you from across the pond. His name is Ian Howarth. He's got his own show, and we'll drop that link there on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/AP for Liberty, Ian, if you're looking for it afterwards. Do us a favor, go over there and drop your channel and your show so that people can watch you and follow you. Really appreciate your take on this one, Ian. You're a very funny guy. We'll definitely look forward to seeing more from you in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks very much for coming on the program. What did you think of Ian Howarth? It's Howarth, not Hayworth. Howarth. Get it right. Well, what did you think? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. I thought he did a great job. It's a great interview. Very funny, right? What do you think I'm doing at night? You think I'm sitting around while I'm like taking care of my poor little paralyzed dog that I'm just, playing video games and eating pizza? Well, I do that sometimes. But I'm also putting together an awesome, killer, kick-ass morning show for you. Ian's got the night shift. I've got the morning shift. I've got you now, babe, on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and
always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Can I ask you a question? Does the Wake Up America Show just lift you up? Does it put you in a good mood for the morning? I'd love to get a little bit of feedback on how you feel about the show since we've gotten started in September. I feel really great personally about how things are going. We're definitely on the right track, in my opinion. And I'd love to hear from you. You see, when you see people coming in being negative or trolling or something like we did a little bit earlier in the show, you have to understand that's a byproduct of success, right? When you get people in there that are trying to tear you down, that's because you're building yourself up, right? We're doing good things here and we're doing exciting things, right? It's been a long time since I've been able to have a staff. We actually have our first employee over here started last week, and he's doing a terrific job so far, just in his first week. I was telling Stephanie about it last night, about how much he had to learn in just the first week. His first day, I introduced him to all of the half a dozen tools of artificial intelligence that I'm using on a daily basis. Taught him how to use that. I taught him how to schedule out content on social media on all the dozen or so pages that I run and maintain. Schedule out content for all of the hours of all the day, and then schedule all the marketing posts and curate content, curated content and all that stuff. And then I taught him what else? God, it was so much. There's so much that I had to teach him last week. how to run the shop, how to send out a marketing email. He'd never done any of that kind of stuff before. He's going to school for digital marketing, so he's actually working now in the field that he wants to work in, which is great. It's very exciting. But I am really feeling good about our future. And I say our future because, of course, the show is mostly brought to you by people like you. And, of course, our friends down at Lear Capital as well. We love them very much. They're also bringing you the show, and they're supporting us. And this is a good opportunity for me to talk about them. I might actually take the show a little bit longer today, which I'm sure you probably wouldn't mind. Because I've got a really great topic to discuss with you. Would you mind if I went a little bit later today? Would you like maybe stick around maybe 5 or 10 minutes, a little bit longer? We'll see. But I want to talk to you about my friends at Lear Capital. So here's the good news. This is why I'm excited for the future. We had a 2-month probationary trial period for the sponsorship of the show for Lear Capital. And the good news is, guess what? They decided to continue to extend it. Yes, that's very exciting for us because, I mean, listen, that kind of revenue like that gives us the financial security and the footing that we need to ensure that we can invest, right? That's how I knew that I'd be safe, bringing on a new employee, right? Expanding our operations, continuing to grow. And so Lear Capital, I think, deserves your respect and your appreciation as well. Because I know a lot of you who are watching right now, if you're not monthly subscribers, you've done super chats, and I appreciate you very much. And we've taken a hybrid approach, and we said, okay, we've got sponsors and we've got advertisers, right? And we've also got our monthly subscribers, and I'm just doing an all of the above approach. We've got our merchandise shop at AP for Liberty shop, and we have our friends at Lear Capital who sell awesome gold and silver packages. Here's my thing. I want to ask you a favor today to just find out more information about gold and silver investments from my friends at Lear Capital, because they're investing in the future of liberty. And I think that they deserve to be heard out just for that. Because here's the thing, they could go to podcasts that have millions and millions of views. You understand, so many people are so much bigger than we are, right? But I don't worry about that, right? Because I understand the rule of the tortoise versus the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. I am slowly and steadily building up a liberty media empire. Lear Capital is building the cornerstone of that. So hear them out. Visit their website, learaustin.com. Sign up to get a free gold and silver information packet. Maybe you want to buy silver coins or bars. Maybe you want to buy gold bars or coins. Maybe you don't want to buy gold or silver coins. You don't want to have to hold it. You don't want to have to worry about it. You don't have a safe at home. You can invest a portion of your retirement portfolio in gold or silver and have it be physical metal. And if you want to take possession of it at a later time, you can, right? But you can't do it if you don't know how it works, right? So all I'm asking for you today is to visit my friends at Lear Capital at learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. And find out more about that, and I will be super grateful if you do it, because they invested. This is really good news when you see that a sponsor has continued to sponsor the show, right? Because it's a risk, right? People might not sign up at learaustin.com. People might not decide to buy gold or silver on that. And that's rough, because that would mean that it's more difficult for me to be able to invest in our future. You can help that for free now just by visiting the website at learaustin.com. If you haven't done it for me yet, please do that. I appreciate that. All right, Austin owes us some extra minutes anyway. Chris, you are right. I will stick around for a few extra minutes today. Doug H. just sent us a super chat. Thank you. We appreciate you, Doug. That's really awesome. We are grateful to have you here. Allie O'Neill. Wow, I haven't seen you in a while, Allie. It's nice to see you. Nomad John joined us this morning and had some nice comments in the show. I see some people are talking smack about Mystery Science Theater 3000. Please don't. I freaking love Mystery Science Theater 3000. No, do not rip on them. No, I think that Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, is one of the funniest movies in American history. I didn't like the show, I'll be honest, because I think it's a shtick that gets a little boring, but I will say that the movie, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, normal view, normal view, normal view. I love it. So, yeah, but it's okay. Yeah, you can dislike it if you want, but you're just
what a stupid son of a bitch.
Thank you, Joe Biden. Okay, so I have another story. Oh yeah, I want to make fun of this. These are the top baby names of 2023. It's time for us to have a little bit of fun. you say babies? Joe Biden creeping over the shoulder. Did you say babies?
Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady with a race car.
Okay, Joe Biden. That's very weird. If you're under 19 years, if you're 19 years or younger, and you're around Joe Biden, yeah, run and hide, run and hide. All right, let's talk about the top baby names of 2023 for boys. Oh my God, it starts off terrible. Ire, Aire, Ire, Are, A-I-R-E. That's it. It's like air with an E after it. Why do people do this to the people that they love, that they apparently care about? Aire, Aire, Are, Aire. Okay, number 2, Soren. I mean, what is he, like a character from Lord of the Rings? S-O-R-E-N, Soren. Okay. Number 1 and 2, terrible. Number 3, fine. I like it. Theodore. Theodore. Yes. Oh, yes. Theodore. Look out, Theodore. We're all going to go down today and play a little croquet. Theodore. He sounds like somebody who would play croquet. Don't you think so? Number 4, why are you doing this to your children? Royal. Royal. That's another baby name right there for 2023. Royal. Why would you name a boy Royal? It's royally gay. Number 5, Atticus. Good name, good traditional American name, like Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. I do judge it, and I do judge it to be beautiful. Atticus. I like that name. Number 6, Felix. I would say it's okay. Felix is all right. You know, your baby is born. Oh, look, little Felix. For some reason, though, I'll always think of Felix the cat. I don't know. Do you remember Felix the cat? Did you ever read that book, Felix the cat? I think they turned it into a cartoon at one point. Felix. It's okay. Yeah. Number 7. Oh, Silas. Silas, like Silas Marner or Silas Dogood. No, that was Silence Dogood. I'm sorry. Founding father name from the Federalist Papers. You know, Benjamin Franklin, his pseudonym. Sorry. That was Silence, not Silas. But Silas. Who was Silas Marner? I'm remembering some character from American literature history. Somebody remind me in the chat, who is Silas Marner? I think it was a bad guy's name from literature, but I like Silas. It's okay. Number 8, Arlo. Yeah, it's kind of a country name, right? Kind of like Arlo Guthrie. I'll give it to you. Yeah, I won't rip on I will not rip on Arlo. Amanda says, do not make fun of that name. Do not make fun of what name? Do not make fun of one name. What name? Which one? Number 9, Oliver. Yeah, I can do Oliver. Ollie. Yeah, I can do it. Ollie, ding dong. What do you think? Let's hear number 11, Hugo. Hugo seems to me like a fearless adventurer and explorer. I could go for Hugo. Like, yes, Hugo saves the world. I could go for Hugo. Yeah. Caspian. I did read Prince Caspian as a book, but I think it's just a little bit too, I don't know, pretentious, if you will. Caspian. Imagine having to introduce someone. Like, here's the thing: your name is kind of your expectation. So a Caspian, like, how are you going to live up to a Caspian, right? Like, you better be a prince. I'm gonna give Caspian 2 thumbs down. Amanda says Phoenix Parker Henry, Ezra Jackson Henry. I'm not sure that were those names on the list. Number 13, Oscar. I think I disliked Oscar when I was a kid, an Oscar, but it's okay. It kind of sounds like Austin, but Oscar Mayer. I'll just never think of it. I just think they're a wiener, right? If you call your kid Oscar, just be prepared for the wiener jokes for the rest of their life. Number 14, another Lord of the Rings character name. Stupid. Kylian. Don't do this to your kids. What the hell is wrong with you? Kylian. Just name him Kyle, okay? Kylian, right? Kylian. What the hell is wrong with you? Kylian. Okay. Number 15, Milo. Okay. Like Milo and Stitch, right? And number 16, Otto. Very German name, I guess. Did you know that Otto is a palindrome? Yes. So is Hannah. Yes. Hannah is a palindrome. So is race car. And so is a man, a plan, a canal, Panama. Number 17, August, which is actually my name, at least the Latin, the true name. Austin comes from Augustine, so my name is actually kind of August, so I guess I'm going to give it August 2 thumbs up. That's what I'm named after, St. Augustine. My favorite quote from St. Augustine, Lord, is his prayer. Lord, make me chaste, but not yet. Love it. Some humor. Number 18, Atlas. It's cool. My friend Heather's child is Atlas. I think we can say Atlas is good. We do like it. Yeah, very cute. Aw. Number 19, Jude. Hey, Jude. Okay, yeah, I can do it. Number 20, what is some ancient Persian king? Cyrus? You really gonna name your child Cyrus? Who the hell's naming their child Cyrus? This is some white people shit. Don't like it. Number 1, baby girl names. We're gonna go through the baby girl names. State of the Union party tonight. Oh, please don't. Drinking game. I think I'll spend it. Not drink. Drinking a beer by myself, or with my wife and paralyzed dog. Number 1, Airy. Same stupid name as for boys. They're naming their girls and boys the same stupid names. This is all an attack on the gender and to turn everyone into genderless, freaks. Number 1, Air, A-I-R-E. Stupid name for a baby girl. Boo. Let's boo it.
No, God!
Number 2 is even dumber.
God,
Luxury.
please,
Who's
no,
naming their child
no,
Luxury? Please don't do that. You are, as Joe Biden might say.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Thank you. Number 3, Esti, E-S-T-I. It's okay. Number 4, Aurelia. Kind of like Marcus Aurelius. I can see it. Aurelia. I can kind of give it a, yeah, it's an okay. I think Aurelia is all right. I wouldn't say, could make fun of somebody. Number 5, Maeve, M-A-E-V-E. How do you guys feel about that one? I'm not sure. Let's move on. Isla, I-S-L-A. Like the Isla Capri. You're going to get made fun of. Number 7, Eloise. It's pretty. I could do that. Number 8, Alice. I'll never not think of Alice, the maid who was in what was that? Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch, right? Alice. Number 9, Luna. God, what the hell are you gonna name that? That's like a dog's name. What are you gonna name your child? Luna, she's like the moon. Some hippie crap. Number 10, Ophelia. You know what? Shakespearean reference. Hamlet. Ophelia, get thee to a nunnery. Yes. We like Ophelia. We like it. Number 12, Cora. C-O-R-A. Cora. I'm going to say it's middling, but I'll say it's okay.
How dare you?
Cora's out there not liking that. Number 13, Ava. A-V-A. See, the problem with Ava is that if you study World War II history for like more than 10 seconds, you can think she's going to die with cyanide poisoning at the end of her life in a bunker, and then covered in a petrol in a ditch on fire. So even though it's spelled A-V-A, no offense to my friend Ava Lovasco, who is not going to die in a ditch. Unless Tony Lovasco, her husband, becomes the dictator of the state of Missouri and becomes governor and then turns into a fascist and starts putting people like me into concentration camps. And then his wife will be Ava. And then the Soviets will invade the United States and then they'll capture him here in Jefferson City in a bunker. And then she'll eat cyanide and get shot in the head and die. And then she'll be put in a ditch and then covered in petrol and burned to death. Her corpse will be burned. So yeah, I don't know. I like Ava, and Ava's a wonderful person, and she's a credit to the name Ava, but I can just not think of picture you burning in a ditch on fire. Exactly. Hazel's a beautiful name. Yes, absolutely it is. That was my grandmother's name, so we must give it an applause. Number 14, Iris. I actually kind of like Iris. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. I think wasn't that song Iris? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Number 15, Daphne. Also a Scooby-Doo reference right there. I can get down with some Daphne. She was smoking hot in the cartoon, so Daphne's okay. Number 16, Violet. Right? We're naming our children after characters from Willy Wonka and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And then an uplifting story at the end of the show. Number 17, Freya, which is like an ancient Viking name. Freya. You know what? I'll allow it. Hooray! Number 18, Clara. Clara, like Clarabelle. I like Clara. Good southern name. Hi, Clara. Going down to Claremont. I'm going to have a little dance. The Sadie Hawkins dance. Clara. Yeah, I'll allow it. Number 19, Eleanor. I'm going to think about Eleanor Roosevelt, that old lesbian. Number 20. And finally, number 20, I think, N Strong. Evangeline. Sweet Evangeline, dun dun dun. Good times never seem so bad, so bad, so bad, so bad. You don't like Daphne? You like Freya? Right? Give them names for them, not for yourself and your pleasure. Trying to tell people how interesting and unique you are. Exactly, Tolly. Thank you. And Stephanie, my lovely wife, thank you for this story. You made the end of the show great. What did you think? Thanks so much for watching the Wake Up America show. Don't forget all super chats and donations that are made this week go to our Save Our Calvin Fund. Yes, we're going to try and get Calvin, his little paralyzed legs, walking again, if it's possible, but we don't know just yet. Thank you to Quest Fanning for joining the moderator team today. Thanks to all of our new friends that we made today. I saw Deplorable joined us today, as well as Nomad John, and a bunch of new names and faces. You love to see it. The big guy as well. It's always great to see when we're making new friends. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners like you. So thank you. Thank yourselves. Give yourselves a round of applause. And if you don't like us and you're one of the trolls and you hate watching us right now, well...
Stupid son of a bitch.
No, you're not a stupid son of a bitch. That was Joe Biden who said that, not me. We're glad to have you here. Hopefully you actually watched it, learned something, and said to yourself, you know what? I'm going to give us a like, a subscribe, and I'm going to come back. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.